Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to The Hobby Musician. In today's episode, I wanted to talk about something that's a little more cerebral, and it has to do with our recent channel launch video. This channel is brand new, and in that launch video, we talked a little bit about what exactly do I mean when I say things like a hobby musician. And we said that it's just anyone who is a dedicated, passionate musician when music just happens to not be our profession. You know, you do something else as a job or career, but music is still a big part of your life. Now, in that episode, I also mentioned things about, well, hobby musicians often have to deal with constraints or limited resources. And I mentioned the two big resources, things like time and things like money. And I said that a lot of the things that I'm going to show and feature on this channel are going to be gear and instruments and ways that you can accomplish things in a very affordable way. And it's that word affordable that I wanted to spend some more time on. Now, I know that a lot of people could potentially hear that word and immediately misinterpret it. To some people, affordable gear is just code language for find a brand name, then go and search for a knockoff brand and buy that one because it costs less money. And I truly do not mean that when I use the term affordable. For me, and I think for a lot of folks out there as well, there's much more that goes into that concept. There's a lot of thought behind researching and doing your homework on a piece of gear or an instrument, and then eventually purchasing perhaps a knockoff brand, but it's not strictly because of cost. So I wanted to take a minute in this video to give you guys a look into what I think. Now guys, I am very much a numbers person. Things like statistics and graphs and charts and everything really make sense to me and they click. And so I wanted to kind of put this concept in those terms. So for us today, the two things that I weigh and I balance in my mind are quality and cost. Now, cost is the easy one to think of. That's just how much does the piece of gear cost? But quality can mean different things to different people. Now, for me, it just means what kind of features am I going to get? What kind of durability is this going to have? What kind of craftsmanship went into this? So there's a lot of things wrapped up in that quality idea. But because I'm a numbers guy, I like to put values with things. And as I said just a minute ago, we can measure cost in dollars. I mean, that's a no-brainer. But how do you measure quality? Well, for me, in order to put this into a numbers term, I rely on a phrase that I think just about all of us have heard at one point or another. That phrase, you get what you pay for. Now, the implication of that term is truly the quality of the thing is equal to the dollars that you paid. And for me, I have been able to use that as a starting point for assigning values. So for example, if you pay $80 for a little guitar effect pedal, if you think that that guitar pedal is worth $80, then for me, I'm going to assign it quality units of 80. You paid $80, you get what you paid for, so it's worth $80. Now, we can start to do some math with these numbers. If you wanted to create a ratio, all that means mathematically is you take one value and you divide it by another. So in our case, we're going to take the quality value of 80 and we're going to divide it by the cost of that pedal, 80, and the ratio, the factor that you get out of that is the number 1. Now, mathematicians and different people throughout history, when you discover a formula or a brand new thing, oftentimes you get the privilege of naming that. So for our cases in this video, I'm going to take the initiative and I'm going to call this ratio the Burkett factor. So when you have a Burkett factor that comes out to 1, all that means is you're really getting the amount of quality that you paid for. Now, the real world doesn't always work that way. So one of the things that we have to consider is potentially there are going to be cases where you get more than what you paid for, or unfortunately, you could get a little less than what you paid for. So for example, if we were to take, I don't know, a $100 guitar pedal. Well, if you get that home and you start playing with it, you realize that the features and the tone and everything that it gives to you is really more on par with a more expensive pedal. You got more than what you paid for. Maybe you end up deciding, hey, this is kind of behaving pretty similar to those $150 pedals. Well, in that case, you would have a quality to cost ratio of 150 to 100. When you divide all that out, you would get a final factor of 1.5. Now that is showing you that the quality is higher than the cost, and that's driving it mathematically higher than the number 1. Well, let's take a worst case scenario. Let's say you take that same $100 pedal and you get it home and you start playing with it and you realize this isn't really worth the 100. Maybe you think it's closer in quality to an $80 pedal, like the first one we talked about. Well, then you would have a quality of 80 divided by 100. You'd be dealing with a Burkett factor, in this case of 0.8. You've fallen below 1. So in my mind, I'm constantly balancing what do I think the quality, the features, the flexibility of the product to the cost of it, and I'm playing that game in my mind. Now let's say we take this and we try to put it on a graph. Okay, so we can take any piece of gear now in 2 dimensions. We can plot out what is that cost. Well, we find $80, put the X there, and then we find 80 units, and we can put a point on this graph exactly where the piece of gear falls. Now you'll also notice that mathematically it doesn't matter what the cost and quality is. As long as they're the same, you will get points that line up in this linear fashion, and you would effectively be able to graph out the ideal Burkett factor of 1 for any piece of gear. It doesn't matter if you pay $2,500 for a custom shop Gibson. Well, if you get it home and you think it's worth $2,500, that's still $2,500 divided by $2,500. That's still 1. So it would still fall on this line. Now, we also talked about those 2 cases. Sometimes when you have quality cost ratios that start to get above 1, you would find points, they would fall on this graph above the line. And that's when you really know you're in kind of a good zone. You're getting not only what you paid for something, but you're getting quality and features that are a little higher than potentially what the competitors might be. Now there is also that worse bad kind of area of the graph. If you get these pieces of gear that you're like, look, it just wasn't worth the money I paid for it, you're going to find things below that ideal line in kind of a red zone or an unfortunate zone. Okay, so what does this look like in a real world example? Okay, I have here 2 different sets of in-ear monitors. Now, if you're playing in a situation where you can't have a lot of stage volume, these things come in super handy. Well, on the one hand, I have the Me Audio M6 Pros, and I have the Shure SE425s. Now, I can already kind of hear the comment section exploding, and some people are correctly pointing out that the features, the actual physical design of these products is not a one-to-one match. The Shures, these are dual drivers, so within each earbud they have 2 tiny little drivers that handle different frequency ranges. And the Me Audios are single drivers, so they have 1 driver that handles the whole audio spectrum. And so to some people, they would have a really hard time with anyone comparing them to each other. But this is what I want to try to suggest. Quality also deals with performance. Both of these products have one job to do. They take sound and they shoot it into your ear. That's it. Yes, there's design differences, and I don't care if you put 10 drivers inside one of these earbuds. That still has one job to do. I have used both of these products a lot. I have used them for years each. And I can tell you this. The quality, the performance of these products is on par with each other. So yes, there are design differences, and feel free to let everybody know what those design differences or other design differences are. But guys, these perform to the same. So in our analogy, the quality, I'm putting them about the same. Now the cost of these is what's different. The Me Audios, as of the filming of this episode, these are on sale. You can purchase these from a number of places for $49.99. These are $50. The Shure SC425s, as of this filming, are $250. So if we were to put these items on the graph that we've been using, you will see that when the quality is graphed out, they're going to be equal, but the price is what's going to separate them. And if you calculate out those ratios and those factors that we've been considering, you would see that one of these products falls squarely in a green zone, a zone where you're not only getting what you paid for, you're in fact getting, in my opinion, a lot more than what you paid for. So in conclusion, what we're talking about a lot on this channel is how to maximize those resources that we have, things like money. And the way we do that is we research and we do our homework and we find products out there that may not necessarily be name brand ones, but that offer similar qualities, similar features, similar usability, but perhaps at a fraction of the cost. So I hope you guys got something out of that episode. And if there's other products that you've discovered that kind of fit into this, let me know down in the comments section. And as always, until next time, play on, my friends. Play on.